Donald Trump's presidency will be remembered as one mired in scandal, from the wave of sexual misconduct allegations he faced before entering office, to his failure to condemn white supremacists after a violent rally in Charlottesville, or his mishandling of the coronavirus pandemic. But perhaps the darkest chapter of the Trump era came at the tail end of his presidency, in the wake of the Capitol Hill riots on January 6th. Trump now stands as the only president in American history to be impeached for a second time. But after being acquitted by the Senate once again, what's next for Donald Trump, and what implication does it have for Joe Biden's presidency? A week before Trump was due to step down from office, the House of Representatives brought a single article of impeachment against the former president: incitement of insurrection against the United States.
We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election.
The charge alleged that after months of pushing false allegations of voter fraud in an attempt to overturn the 2020 election results, then President Trump incited his followers in a violent takeover of the U.S. Capitol that led to the death of 5 people.
And after this, we're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down. We're going to walk down anyone you want, but I think right here, we're going to walk down to the Capitol.
The article of impeachment claims Trump, quote, demonstrated that he will remain a threat to national security, democracy, and the Constitution if allowed to remain in office, and has acted in a manner grossly incompatible with self-governance and the rule of law. Lawmakers argued that through violent rhetoric, Trump urged his followers to march to the Capitol in an attempt to stop Congress from certifying the election results.
We fight like hell, and if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
In addition to the insurrection that took place on January 6th, the article of impeachment also refers to the leaked call between then-President Trump and election officials in Georgia, in which he attempted to overturn the state's election results.
There's nothing wrong with saying that, that you've recalculated.
Well, Mr. President, the challenge that you have is the data you have is wrong.
So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes.
After the House voted to impeach the former president, the Senate began a historic case with huge implications for parties on both sides of the aisle. Here's how it played out. The trial took lawmakers back to January 6th, when the former president delivered a speech from the ellipse, urging his supporters to march to the Capitol and, quote,
fight like hell
to preserve their country. Factions of his supporters began sieging the building moments later. Lead impeachment manager Jamie Raskin also played a video montage of Trump over the years, inciting his supporters to assault his opponents.
Get him the hell out of here, will you, please?
I said, please don't be too nice.
Proud Boys, stand back and stand by.
The video reflected Democrats' arguments that Trump had been fomenting the insurrection for years, as far back as 2015.
Hillary Clinton is in the process of trying to steal it from you. Do you make the same commitment that you will absolutely, sir, that you will absolutely accept the result of this election?
I will look at it at the time.
From there, Democrats argued it was both constitutional and legally proper to impeach a president after they had left office.
It is inconceivable that they designed impeachment to be a dead letter in the president's final days in office.
This was an important argument from the prosecution, as it preempted a key part of the Republican defense.
For the first time in history, Congress has asserted the right to try and punish a former president who is a private citizen. Nowhere in the Constitution is the power enumerated or implied.
The Democratic argument rested on the idea that acquitting Trump would set a dangerous legal precedent. Democrats argued it would allow sitting presidents to commit impeachable offenses, high crimes, and misdemeanors in their final weeks of the presidency, stepping down to escape prosecution, a so-called January exception. After Democrats outlined their case, the defense began with a bizarre admission.
Outstanding presentation from our opponents, and the emotion that certainly welled up in Congressman Raskin.
Before outlining their own arguments about what happened on January 6th. They claimed the impeachment was political.
They were not trying a case. They were telling a political tale.
Democrats were trying to stop Trump from running in 2024.
If you don't impeach him, he might be elected again. That's the fear.
And that they lack the constitutional authority to do so. In short, the former president's primary defense was to simply deny everything, while doing as little harm as possible to his case.
This impeachment is completely divorced from the facts, the evidence, and the interests of the American people.
His lawyers denied he ever engaged in a violation of his oath of office and was simply exercising his First Amendment rights on the day of the insurrection.
The most important one, the ability to have free and robust debate.
They argued that the president's call to, quote, fight like hell wasn't encouragement for his supporters to commit violence, but instead was just urging them to continue their fight for election security in general.
This is ordinary political rhetoric that is virtually indistinguishable from the language that has been used by people across the political spectrum for hundreds of years.
Republicans prevailed in the end, acquitting the former president for his second time.
It is therefore ordered and adjudged that the said Donald John Trump be, and he is hereby, acquitted of the charge in said article.
The move paves the way for Trump to not just run again in 2024, but to continue serving as the de facto face of the Republican Party. GOP senators showed with their votes that they will still have the former president's back.
That's the right thing to do.
Even after their lives were put at risk by a mob of his extremist supporters. But Trump may not have the clearest path to the White House in 4 years from now, with polls showing a sharp decline in support when he refused to accept the results of the election, a trend that has continued after the Capitol riots. The former president also faces ongoing investigations into his calls with state election officials, like in Georgia, where the president's leaked call with the Secretary of State showed him pressuring the Republican official to overturn the results of his defeat. With plunging approval ratings and potential criminal investigations against him, it's unclear if Trump will manage to sail to victory in a Republican primary season sure to test the fate of the party. As expected, Donald Trump was acquitted once again, but the truth is that getting a conviction in the Senate was always beset against virtually insurmountable odds. While the vast majority of Republican senators did not seem to change their mind after the impeachment trial, lawmakers used the proceedings as a vehicle to host another trial, one in the court of public opinion. Democrats hope that by reminding the American electorate of the dangers of the Trump era, they will help put an end to it for good. But with Trump now free to seek election once again, it's possible we won't see a true verdict until Election Day 2024.